What's going on, Big Blue View readers, listeners, and watchers? Nick Falato here to talk about big number 97, Dexter Lawrence, who is solidifying himself as one of the top interior defensive linemen in the National Football League. The 2019 first-round selection combines excellent leverage and length with superior strength and deceptive athletic ability. 345-pound linemen do not typically possess the agility, bend, and movement skills like Lawrence does, and he's actualized these traits into a true breakout campaign at just 25 years old. Many assign Lawrence with a reputation as just a two-down run stuffer when he was drafted. It was false then, and it's proven untrue this season. Lawrence had 2 seasons at Clemson with more than 30 pressures while recording 48 pressures and 7 sacks in his freshman year. Even last season, Dexter Lawrence had 43 pressures, but just 2.5 sacks, and the strength-athletic ability combination was evident then. However, he's taken his game to a different level in 2022. In this video, we'll show his 9 pressures in the Giants' 24-16 win over Houston. As you'll see, it's not necessarily schemed up pressure. Lawrence's ability to dominate centers as a nose and one shade have resulted in tons of production this season. He's super efficient with his hands, quickly gets to multiple pass rushing moves, and his pass rushing plan is expanded by his sheer strength and ability to impose his will. And that will be strong. Through 10 weeks, 9 games, Dexter Lawrence has 35 pressures, a career-high 5 sacks, and a position-leading 12 quarterback hits. Lawrence has 2 games with 8 or more pressures. His ability to take the game over has now been displayed multiple times through the first half of the season. So without further ado, let's get into some of these Dexter Lawrence pressures. Here's a 3rd and 11. To end the Texans' first drive of the game. You can see how the New York Giants just absolutely load the line of scrimmage here. And the presence of Oshane Ximines over the top of Jordan Akins right here is going to hold this offensive tackle in place and create a 2-versus-1 on Jihad Ward. All of these other defenders end up coming on the pressure. So you're going to have a one-on-one matchup with Dexter Lawrence here, one-on-one matchup. Leonard Williams is going to get isolated against Rex Burkhead. Kayvon Thibodeaux is going to slant inside against this offensive tackle, Laramie Tunsil, and that's going to leave Jason Pinnock unblocked here. So just this mere presence of Oshane Ximines creates kind of a hassle among the protection, and there's also a miscommunication where you have Leonard Williams isolated against Rex Burkhead, but we're going to see how Dexter Lawrence just runs through this center right here. Just powers, lands the rip move. It doesn't necessarily matter because Leonard Williams and Jason Pinnock end up getting this pressure as well. But you can see how Dexter Lawrence's effort towards the end of the play, bending through the contact right there, and ends up finishing, along with Jason Pinnock, Davis Mills to the ground for this sack right here. Let's see exactly how it happens. From a scheme standpoint, Dane Belton just comes right through this A-gap. Guard is going to collapse down on him. Ideally, you would rather have the guard take Leonard Williams, and then Rex Burkhead would take Dane Belton stepping up into the A-gap, because then you have a comparable size matchup between Belton and Rex Burkhead, whereas Leonard Williams and Rex Burkhead, that is not ideal for the Houston Texans. But when you bring pressure and you dictate terms like Wink Martindale loves to do, you create havoc on the offensive side of the ball, particularly with protection packages. We can see here. Let's watch specifically on Dexter Lawrence. So Dexter Lawrence shoots his hands up. You can see how this center gets his hands inside of Dexter Lawrence, but watch how Dexter Lawrence just grabs the wrist of the center and just basically throws the entire equilibrium of this center off by throwing the wrist off, using his other arm, which you cannot see right now, and controlling that center's arm there, which is going to open up this center's chest, and then all Dexter Lawrence has to do after he broke the contact initially of this center's left arm is bring that right arm of Dexter Lawrence underneath the elbow, landing that rip move right underneath the shoulder, right into the armpit. And now Dexter Lawrence has won, and all he has to do is bend through this contact and withstand the strength of number 54 right here, which is exactly what he does. He bends through the contact, but Pinnock, who's unblocked, ends up helping along with Leonard Williams to get that sack. Here's a 1st and 10, 3:55 left in the second quarter. The Giants are going to drop Dane Belton into the box, and then they're going to slant their line at the line of scrimmage in order to penetrate, something a lot of teams do against these run-heavy teams. Houston did it a lot against the New York Giants, who were certainly run-heavy, and we'll see how Dexter Lawrence ends up getting his pressure. He's going to slant. You can see he goes to his right against Quessenberry. It's play-action pass. Good job by Jalen Smith to almost get this sack, but it's deemed an incomplete pass here by Davis Mills. But let's watch Dexter Lawrence specifically. It's just him and Quessenberry at first. You can see Quessenberry lands that left arm right on the breastplate, right on the midline of Dexter Lawrence. And Dexter Lawrence, what does he do? Efficient hands. He just breaks the wrist by grabbing the wrist, the contact, and then he just pushes it off of him. And now at this spot, where it looked like Quessenberry was in a dominant position right here, Dexter Lawrence just flips the script, and now you can see Dexter Lawrence lower his center of gravity and start driving through contact. And as he does that, breaks the contact here, he controls the opposite wrist, the right hand of Quessenberry. Instead of just using the bull rush, which is what we know Dexter Lawrence can do, he has that capability, he basically hand fights with him and dances. But you can see how he brings his own left arm downward and then gets the rip, gets to the half man, gets hip to hip, and then makes contact on Davis Mills. We talk a lot at Big Blue View about establishing a half-man relationship when you are a pass rusher. You want to get hip to hip. You want to get this side of your hip right on this side of the hip, because it's a much difficult assignment for an offensive lineman to block you when you're basically running right past them instead of just going right through them, which is also something Dexter Lawrence can do. But you can see right here, he's getting hip to hip. He's establishing the half-man relationship. He's low and he's churning through the ground, and you can see just how great and effective he is with that hand usage. Another pressure for Dexter Lawrence. Let's look at the third one of the game. Here we're going to see sheer strength from Dexter Lawrence on this 1st and 10 at the end of the second quarter, just before the end of the first half. And we're going to get mirrored TE twists from the New York Giants, a 5-man pressure. And I absolutely love this because Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard have to respect Kayvon Thibodeau and O'Shane Ximenez. But the path of Jihad Ward and Leonard Williams are going to occupy the guards, and it's going to end up being a twist, but that just leaves the center on Dexter Lawrence. And let's watch. You can see the twist aspect of it, and you can see how Dexter Lawrence just bullies the center right back into Davis Mills' lap. Let's see the twist. You can see right here. He's going to go right through the B gap, outside shoulder of the guard, right through the B gap, outside shoulder of the guard. The defensive tackles are going. And then both these ends are going to loop behind it. And you can see how the guards are going to open up to respond to the defensive tackles here. They both open up. And now you're going to have paths from O'Shane Ximenez and Kayvon Thibodeau. This is just mirrored TE twists on both sides with Dexter Lawrence isolated against Quessenberry. Quessenberry struggles a little bit right here. And Davis Mills ends up throwing an incomplete pass. And this is just strength right here. Just bull rush, get your one hand free, see if you can make contact with the ball. Dexter Lawrence is a split second behind, and then Dane Belton is a fraction of an inch, it looks like, away from coming away with what would have been his first interception of his career, because later in the game we know he ends up getting one. Here's a 2nd and 1 in the third quarter, 10:35 left. Mind you, we've only gone over a few pressures so far, so all the rest of the pressures came in the second half, and this is for a defensive lineman that played over 50 snaps, and not just a defensive lineman, but a 345-pound defensive lineman. It just goes to show you that this dude does not tire down the stretch. Really is miraculous. Let's watch this play. It's another almost interception. You'll see Dane Belton get depth. Oh, and he almost comes up with the interception, but he tips it up to Chris Moore, who makes this catch right here. But let's watch Dexter Lawrence. This one is really not much to write home about, but it's a play-action pass. You can see how the play-action element slows down the rush. It's one of the benefits to running the play-action, not just to fool the linebackers, but it slows down the rush. You'll see right here, locking out, O'Shane Ximenez locking out, Tom and Fox, feet are not moving, Henry Mondu, feet are not moving. Dexter Lawrence seems to always be pass rushing throughout most of it, but he gets a little glimpse right there, and then he kind of turns it on. You can see how that slows the rush down, but let's watch how Dexter Lawrence ends up earning this pressure. Hands on, eyes towards the eventual mesh point. And I love how Dexter Lawrence does this often. He leans so far into this contact. He grabs cloth and he either grabs cloth or he just uses pure force to stick that foot in the ground and then just attempt to throw the center to the opposite direction while exploding off this foot to get to the half man and get around the offensive lineman. That's exactly what he ends up doing here, but it's just a bit too slow. You can see just the hand fighting of Dexter Lawrence here. It's hand fighting, trying to throw, trying to use the club, separate, swim over the top. Davis Mills releases the football, and look, it's in Micah McFadden's hands, but it's a tough play to make. Ends up being a 20-plus yard catch for the Houston Texans somehow. Shortly after, Dexter Lawrence takes the roughing the passer call, but he flashed a pretty impressive spin move on this 17-yard gain to Jordan Akins in the third quarter with 9:54 left. Also notice how frequent the New York Giants are in a tight front here, where they have three guys inside of the offensive tackles, and then they also have two of their edge rushers on the line of scrimmage, a five-man front. It's something the Giants were in quite often against this run-heavy approach led by Dameon Pierce. But let's watch this play where Dexter Lawrence hits a quarterback hit, but he ends up getting flagged, and you can see how he dives at Davis Mills' feet. You can't do that in today's day and age, but let's watch the rush. Gets his hands inside, shoots him. Look how tight his elbows are all the time. Works to the half man, brings the left arm of Quessenberry downward, and you can see how Quessenberry right here has somewhat of control of Dexter Lawrence, and Dexter Lawrence is going to try and win around the edge, but he feels how Quessenberry does a good job mirroring him up the arc right here. So because his arms are controlled, Dexter Lawrence just puts his foot in the ground and he spins inside right there, uses that arm to club, recollects himself, and then dives at Davis Mills' feet, which he can't do in today's NFL. But still, talk about counter moves right here. Like, you're beat right here, Dexter Lawrence. Like, you're not going to be able to win if you continue your pass rush up like this because you can't really generate any power. Look how high his center of gravity is. And Quessenberry has you locked up. So do the only thing you can do, spin inside. You can also see how Leonard Williams does a good job getting pressure on this play as well by flashing what? A spin move. Inside spin. Both of them come free. Penalty ends up happening, but still a good rep by Dexter Lawrence to show the ability to counter and adjust. 1st and 10 with 48 seconds left in the third quarter, and we're going to have a half sack by Dexter Lawrence right here, who does such a good job, along with Leonard Williams, getting free of the offensive lineman right here up against Quessenberry again. Watch how Dexter Lawrence takes the left arm of Quessenberry and lifts it up right here. You're going to get a better view in a little bit, but he lifts that arm up right as Quessenberry is attempting to make contact. You see the tight front again. See the play action element. And then what does Dexter Lawrence do? He brings his left arm through the right armpit of Quessenberry, lifts, relifts again, and then ends up getting the sack. You'll see it right here. Watch. Look at the contact on David Quessenberry's left arm. He just lifts this up as he's coming out of his 4-point stance. He's still really low right here. There is so much power that he can generate from his base through the ground into Quessenberry, and he just catches the arm, lifts it up, and then he aims for the upper bicep, the deltoid of the right arm of Quessenberry, and then just basically transitions to Quessenberry's wrist to break the contact and bring that left arm through the right armpit to get to the half-man relationship, hip to hip. And now look at David Quessenberry. What is he going to do in this position? He has no ability to generate force. His center of gravity is very high. His feet are very close together. He's trying to mirror, and you can see how he cannot keep up with the strength and the angle that Dexter Lawrence has here. And Dexter Lawrence landed that rip move, raises the center of gravity right there. You can see how his elbow is right here going upward, and then he does it again. He kind of resyncs himself, resyncs his center of gravity, and raises Quessenberry again, and then that creates the absolute separation he needs to find Davis Mills and get this sack. We'll watch it from this angle one more time just so you can see how efficient Dexter Lawrence is with his hands. Raise up, get the rip move, get hip to hip, stress, 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 turn the corner, bend, get to the quarterback, get your half sack with Leonard Williams. Hey, a front that's not tight here from the New York Giants. This is the 19-yard touchdown pass to Brandon Cooks that was nullified because of a holding penalty against Kenyon Green that was caused by Dexter Lawrence, as you just saw right there. We'll just watch Dexter Lawrence, who is kind of in a one shade over Quessenberry. And by the way, I've been saying David Quessenberry. I am an idiot. That is Scott Quessenberry. Please berate me for this. We have Dexter Lawrence releasing right here, right into Kenyon Green. You can see how he lands his right hand right on this shoulder pad. And Kenyon Green can't catch him. He's tonguing right here. He's basically hugging him. So right here, Dexter Lawrence is just going to continue his path towards the half man to get hip to hip. And you can see right now that Kenyon Green is just grabbing a hold of Dexter Lawrence and not allowing him to create separation. He has no body positioning on Dexter Lawrence. He framed the block poorly and probably did not anticipate the overall speed and athletic ability in terms of lateral agility of Dexter Lawrence. So Dexter Lawrence just takes that hold, forces the holding penalty. Davis Mills throws a touchdown pass. That is nullified. It is negated because of Dexter Lawrence. And then the very next play, a 2nd and 25. You'll see how it's a similar type of play. It's not to Brendan Cooks, but it's the same area of the field. This is against a too-high safety. Tried to fit it into a deep honey hole, but Dane Belton does not allow that. Dane Belton reads it all. I thought this was cover 1 at first on broadcast, but no, Davis Mills tried this in cover 2. You can see right here. Too high. They both spread out, deep half responsibilities. Dane Belton reads it the entire time, but you can see how Dexter Lawrence gets a quarterback hit by basically using the same exact move against the rookie Kenyon Green. He's aligned. Let's time it up well. Right here, more as a 2-eye, and he releases towards the outside of Kenyon Green, gets both of his hands right into the breastplate, jolts Kenyon Green backward, creates the separation, and then just drives and keeps driving his feet. And Kenyon Green doesn't move his feet up the arc. He just kind of turns and gives Dexter Lawrence this advantageous edge to create this separation, almost drawing another holding penalty. But this time, he doesn't hold as long. Dexter Lawrence gets his hit. Dane Belton gets his first career interception. Here's a 2nd and 8 pressure. 4th quarter, 2:40 left in the game. Dexter Lawrence initially aligned over Quessenberry. Scott Quessenberry, that is. He just swats his arm away and then engages Green right here. And you can see how the two kind of end up dancing. And Davis Mills just overthrows Chris Moore in the back of the end zone here. But this is just another one of those plays where Dexter Lawrence is at the one shade. And he just goes and he addresses the midline of Kenyon Green, tries to work to the half man initially, and then realizes he doesn't necessarily have the angle that was there before, so he just uses pure power and runs through Green. You can see how he uses Green's arms against him, essentially. He grabs a hold of Kenyon Green's arm right there, while Kenyon Green grabs a hold of Dexter Lawrence's, so Dexter Lawrence just explodes through the ground, lifting up Kenyon Green. You can see Kenyon Green has no balance or anything of that sort. This is just Kenyon Green losing the strength battle to Dexter Lawrence to force this pressure. We'll watch it one more time. Just uproots him. And then it helped lead to the overthrow pass. And now here is the last pressure of the game. 1st and 10 in the 4th quarter. 1:30 left. Aligned over Quessenberry. And Dexter Lawrence just gets right around Quessenberry. Dexter Lawrence was very good with his hands and very good at getting to the half-man relationship and turning that corner. For someone who's 345 pounds, this is a very athletic individual. And right here, you can see Quessenberry's trying to punch really quickly. He tries to go for that punch. Look what he catches. I'm telling you, man, this guy is catching hands, bro. And I'm not talking about in a fight. He's just catching the punches of opposing offensive linemen. He catches it right at the wrist. And then you can see how Dexter Lawrence stops the progress of that arm. And then he just acts as a quick swat and then land the rip move. And look how quick and efficient that is. I'm going to deter your punch, and then I'm just going to land my rip. One more time. Deter punch, land the rip. Deter punch, land the rip. Use your athletic ability and bend to get into the pocket. Davis Mills just ends up finding Rex Burkhead for a little gain in garbage time right here. But just watch how quick Dexter Lawrence is able to use those hands to get this pressure on Davis Mills. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 9 pressures against the Houston Texans. Got a couple of sacks in there as well. Dexter Lawrence is just wreaking havoc. And to think there was an actual question about extending this individual's 5th-year option, picking that up. The New York Giants obviously did. And now they have another year of control of Dexter Lawrence. But let's not mistake it. This guy more than likely, I would have to imagine, is going to be here long-term as a New York Giant. He loves the New York Giants. He's got that Giants tattoo, and he is playing like a true Big Blue New York football Giant. Thank you, everyone, for checking out this video. Please head on over to bigblueview.com, where there is all of our written content on the now 7-2 New York Giants. Nick Falato, Big Blue View, signing off. Take care of each other. Have a lovely day.